So again, I'd like to welcome you to Locating and Contacting Social Work Field Internship Sites. I am Angie Lira, Senior Career Services Advisor at Walden. And joining me today is Dr. Donna McElveen, Director of Field Experience for the Masters of Social Work program. Megan Arneson, and she is also a Field Education Coordinator with the Masters of Social Work program. Dr. Dion Spooner, the Director of Field Experience for the Bachelors of Social Work program. So let's move on to today's agenda. Today we're going to be talking about strategies for securing a field or internship site. Marketing yourself and Walden University to prospective internship sites can really improve the chances of securing that site. So we'll start by defining the purpose of field experience. Then we'll share some strategies on how to conduct your search, some techniques on how to market yourself and Walden University, and finally we'll discuss strategies to contact potential internship sites. So now Donna is going to get us started.
Hi everyone. As you're learning, social work is a broad profession, and social workers can be found in social service agencies, nonprofit organizations, healthcare facilities, schools, shelters, crisis centers, mental health facilities, and various other settings. Social work education considers your internship to be the primary source of learning. And because of this, our accrediting body, CSWE, requires you have a certain number of hours and you learn under a qualified supervisor. Your internship experience not only provides you professional experience, but it's necessary for the social work licensure process in many states. We regularly receive requests from state boards to verify student internship hours. It's a really important part of your education. Your internship will not only prepare you for licensure, but you'll develop skills and competencies needed to enter the social work professional practice.
All right. So we'd like to start out by getting some feedback from you, the audience. So we'd like you to use the question box that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, and I want you to brainstorm some ideas of how to identify potential supervisor and field experience sites. We'd like to hear some of the ideas that you have. So please type in, using the question box, some of your ideas of how to identify potential supervisor and field experience sites. So we'll give you guys a minute to type in your answers. Sonia mentioned from the list given to us by Walden. That's a great place to start. What are some other ways? Katie mentioned by some using professional associations. That's also an excellent idea. Tarajia mentioned networking with your coworkers and classmates. Blaine mentioned cold calling agencies in the area. Tiffany mentioned career services. Obviously, that's a favorite of mine. What are some other ideas? Peter mentioned associations with hospitals such as social services and hospice. And Veronica mentioned local behavioral clinics and hospitals. Trajia also mentioned social media and job boards such as LinkedIn. These are all excellent ideas, and I want to thank you for sharing them. And I'd like to have Donna now share some insights and tips from her team on how to identify field sites.
Thanks, Angie. Those were all really great suggestions. And, you know, our MSW and BSW program at Walden is structured a little differently than other universities because our program is online and you as students are located all over the United States and beyond. And we know that because of that, we are not the experts on social service delivery in your community. So as you remember social work being broad-reaching, we ask that you become familiar with agencies in your community. This doesn't only help you with your field placement, it also helps you in the future for job location. So it's important to identify agencies in your own community or surrounding communities where you would like to intern. We don't require that you secure your own field placement, meaning we don't require you have solidified the deal before you provide that agency to us. What we do ask is that you provide us with a solid agency that does accept MSW interns and considers you as a potential to be an intern there. Our coordinators will reach out and verify that those agencies have appropriate supervision and can meet the educational needs. So regular communication with your assigned coordinator is really important. That coordinator will help you throughout the entire process. You'll be assigned a field coordinator after you have completed the application process. That coordinator will then reach out to the agency you provided to ensure that they can be a good fit for the program requirements, have that appropriate supervision, and provide you a solid learning environment. So I'd like to hand it off to Megan Arneson, one of our senior MSW field coordinators, to provide some more information about identifying sites and working with field coordinators.
Thanks, Donna. As she had mentioned, that it is the role of a student to identify some potential internship sites within their own community, and after you've done so, you'll begin working with one of our team members to secure that site to begin your internship experience. After we learn a little bit more about the organization and some of their contact information from you, your coordinator will contact the agency directly by passing along various information about the program requirements, which include the needed tasks, appropriate supervision, course requirements, and other information. If that agency has an opening and seems like an appropriate fit with our program, your coordinator will then provide them with various documentation that they'll need to complete prior to your start date. Once everything is received back and approved by your coordinator, we directly communicate the approval of your placement, typically via email with you. So it's important to begin just keeping tabs on your email, as that's a primary mode of communication. We also notify students if sites can't take on an intern for a variety of reasons, at which point it's back in the role of the student to identify a new site within their community or area that they're living. If you're ever having difficulty identifying an agency, you should definitely reach out to your assigned field coordinator. We're here to assist and are available to walk through this process with you. It's often helpful to know more information about where you've tried looking, so we recommend that you do keep a list of places you've called and the results of each of those interactions with those agencies. This just provides us coordinators with a little bit more information to ensure that no one's doing double work by giving you agencies that you've already tried, or us reaching out to organizations that you might already know aren't going to be a good fit. One other component of the field education coordinator is to ensure that all parties involved in the internship have what they need before the hours begin, so that you as the student can have a supportive and positive learning experience. If you, your agency, or your supervisor feel that the program requirements are not clear before the start date, please contact your coordinator for further information, clarification, or assistance. We're happy to help in any way that we can and work hard to ensure that all inquiries are handled in a timely manner. So now Donna is going to pass along some tips on identifying potential field sites.
As Megan mentioned, your field coordinator, that collaboration and that partnership is really important, and they will assist you during the field process. So before applying to our office and before you're even assigned a coordinator, I do want to point out it's important for you to become familiar with where you're at in the program and when your field placement should begin. So it's a good idea to connect with academic advising early on and determine which term you're scheduled to start your field course. And you start your field hours the same quarter you start your field course. So once you determine that, that'll give you the information needed to submit your application properly. You'll also, if you're an MSW student, want to know which placement you're applying for. Many of you will have 2 placements, one in the first year of your program and one at the end of your program. So it's important to know if you're trying to look for a site that is a foundation year placement or a concentration year placement. You'll want to explore the field experience manual and learn about the requirements of field from our website. We'll provide that link at the end of the webinar. So when considering potential agency sites, think about whether or not the agency allows you opportunities to engage social work practice. If you're in your foundation year, you'll be able to do things like case management, intake, resourcing, macro policy projects, some of those types of experiences. If you're a concentration year student, you'll want your placement to align with your concentration, and you'll want to have advanced tasks with a clinical focus. So advanced tasks could include clinical assessments, experience with diagnosis and using the DSM, treatment planning, group work, and other types of advanced tasks. You can find resources on our field website to learn more about social work tasks for each type of internship. CSWE, our accrediting body, does require that you have a supervisor who has an MSW degree with 2 years postgraduate experience. There's other criteria for BSW, which will be covered here in a few minutes. In some agencies in remote communities, there may not be many MSWs in the area, and that creates a special circumstance where we may be able to allow you to have an agency task supervisor, someone who has a similar master's degree and some good practice experience, and then we would have to supplement your supervision with one of our faculty members. This is not preferred, and it's reserved for those situations where there are limited options. All supervisors must be approved by our field office. So once you've identified a site and you plan to begin, it's important to remember a few requirements. First, you'll take a field course at the same time you complete your internship hours, and during that course you'll be expected to attend a live meeting on video for 1 hour each week during the course. You can't pass the course if you don't attend the required number of meetings, so it's really important to know you have to structure your schedule to accommodate this. Also, you'll be expected to complete about 22 to 24 hours a week at your internship, and a key to success in planning for this time and adjusting your schedule so that you can attend the required meetings and meet the hour requirements. You'll have some coursework in your field class, but it's generally not as demanding as other courses. So I just can't stress enough the need to plan ahead to make sure you can meet our requirements and that weekly meeting. Now we'll hear about some of the requirements for BSW students.
Thank you, Donna. This is Dionne Spooner, and I'm in charge of the BSW program. Some of the things that we are going to review are very similar to the MSW program. However, there are some differences as well. One of the biggest differences is for the BSW level, we are really looking at generalist social work practice. So when you are looking at a placement, you want to identify service areas that are interest to you, just like we reviewed at the very beginning of the webinar. That really is a very broad spectrum of options and opportunities. Anything from working with shelters to working in hospitals to working in schools. It really is a very broad area. Some of the places that typically students will look are human service centers, clinics, older adult care such as nursing homes or assisted living, and also hospitals. One of the most important things about understanding and looking for a potential field site at the BSW level is that there must be a BSW level supervisor on site to provide supervision. They must have a BSW as well as 2 years of postgraduate experience. They also must provide social work services. Walden prefers that your BSW supervisor be licensed in their respective states, but this is not a requirement. Your supervisor may have an advanced degree, such as an MSW or a PhD, and that is absolutely an option, but at a minimum, they must have a BSW plus 2 years of post-degree experience. This really is intended to ensure that they have a very clear understanding of their own work responsibilities before they are teaching and sharing it with you. Your supervisor must be able to provide 1 hour of face-to-face supervision to you each week. And just as Donna has previously shared with you in regards to having your supervisor on site, we do understand in very rare situations or very remote situations, there may not be someone that is directly on site of an agency, however, is willing to provide some supervision to you. In rare situations, that can be accommodated. However, it must receive approval from the field office before that can be put into practice. The agency may also provide you a task supervisor who may not be a social worker, but has another degree that is very comparable that will be providing day-to-day opportunities for you to learn. You may follow them for different periods of time. However, you must have a BSW that can provide supervision. In addition, it is very important for you to understand that your site that you are doing your practice at is in good standing with any accreditation or licensing body that they hold. This is very important, and this is an important question for you to ask when you are seeking out supervision at the different sites that you may be looking into.
So now the field experience coordinator, Megan, is going to share some tips on how to conduct your search.
Thank you. Now that we've looked a little bit about social work and what that entails, as well as site requirements for both the MSW and BSW programs, we want to consider best tips on conducting a search and professionally identifying potential internship sites for your field experience course. You all listed some of these in the comment box earlier, so it's going to be a little bit of a repeat, but also good to review. So your knowledge about your community in specific will be an asset as you explore options that meet the various requirements. Consider what agencies employ social workers and contact them. I'd also recommend that you inquire further with those agencies if they have other ideas of organizations you could contact, especially if they are unable to offer an internship to you at that time. Another recommendation is connecting with any social workers you already know in your community. It's recommended that when you contact them, see if they have ideas about what agencies might meet your area of interest and if they can assist with an internship at your program level. We always encourage students to explore several options, as there are times when agencies don't offer internships, already have their interns, or are unable to meet Walden's program requirements. If you have several sites to choose from, there's a greater likelihood that we'll be able to secure a placement in a timely manner. So this is important as we just want to be sure that we get you placed in the appropriate term start date that you're hoping for. And sometimes we've had students with agencies that have fallen through and they don't have a backup, so then their program is delayed by a term due to needing to find a new organization. So I always recommend for students to have at least one backup site in mind. When you do reach out to agencies, I would also recommend that you ask if there's an internship or volunteer coordinator or someone with an MSW who you could speak with or contact so that you could further explore what opportunities are available at that site. I recommend that you start your search process early so that you're not procrastinating. We do know that some areas can be super competitive with other schools of social work, so we want you to be creative and get on top of this as soon as you're able. I also strongly recommend that you, again, are in contact with your field education coordinator. We're here to assist you in exploring potential options and giving direction if needed in your search process. Our role is to ensure that all of the program requirements can be met and that the internship will be a rich learning experience. But we also are here to support you as a student in your search process to ensure that you have an agency that's going to be a good fit for you and also meets the program requirements. Next, we'll discuss a few ways to market yourself to potential sites.
So now that we've discussed how to identify and research potential sites, let's discuss how to approach a potential field site. Field site supervisors will want to know how your skills, experience, and academic background are going to directly meet their needs. And that's why it's important that you tailor your marketing toward the specific site you're applying to. So think about what kind of values and contributions you can make to the site. What are the knowledge and skills that you've gained during your academic program, and how can you use them to meet the goals of your chosen organization? A potential field site supervisor will want to review your qualifications and letters of recommendation to ensure that you're a good fit for the organization. So how can you make sure that you're communicating your strength through your application materials? One good way to do this is to have a strong personal brand. Your brand is a combination of your goals, your key personal attributes, and your strengths. Your brand highlights how you're different from everyone else. So when you're developing your brand, consider, what are you good at? Who are you the go-to person for, and what is unique about you? Reflect on your professional goals, your experience, and passions. Your brand should be evident throughout all of your application materials. So what application materials are important for your field site search? It is important to take some time to put together all of your application materials before you begin marketing yourself to field sites. Of course, these application materials should include a resume and cover letter, but consider expanding your career portfolio to include information about Walden University, program information, examples of your work, and that could include papers or projects, letters of recommendation, and a copy of your program's field manual. While it might take a little bit longer to collect these items to share with potential field sites, it can also set you apart from other applicants. So what type of Walden University information should you share with potential field sites? Well, you can share information on Walden's social change mission, which is so key to social work. You can also let field sites know that we have a diverse student population with a global perspective. And finally, definitely share that we have rigorous curriculum that is taught by highly qualified faculty. You may also want to share that the Masters of Social Work program is accredited by CSWE. Now, we have many available resources to help you prepare your materials. One of these tools is Optimal Resume. Optimal Resume is a document management system that is free for all Walden students and alumni, and it can be accessed from the Career Services website or by going directly to waldenu.optimalresume.com. The Optimal Resume Builder assists you in creating professional-looking resume documents, and there are over 400 sample resumes for you to review and use. And this is a wonderful resource if you haven't created a resume in a while, or if you're interested in looking at some different resume formats that you might want to incorporate into your own document. There is also a letter builder that can help you with cover letter writing and writing thank you notes. Now, the Optimal Resume system can also be used to create an online portfolio to share with potential field site supervisors. You could also print out your portfolio documents, organize them in a professional-looking binder, and create a tactile portfolio that you could bring with you to a potential field site or to an interview. That way, you're able to show examples of your work and achievements and leave a lasting impression. You're able to access Optimal Resume via the Career Services website or directly at waldenu.optimalresume.com. So we're going to take a closer look at two components of your marketing materials, your resume and your cover letter. So here's an example of a sample resume for social work field experience. You can locate this sample on the Optimal Resume site that I mentioned. Let's take a look at some of the strategies that Janina has used to tailor her resume to the field experience internship search. First, she's developed a detailed summary of qualifications in which she highlights her education, her relevant skills, and her related volunteer work. She's also decided to list her education before her work experience because in this case it's more relevant to the area of social work. Another way that she's demonstrating her skills and knowledge is to include her relevant coursework on her document. Now, Janina's primary work experience has been in the area of life insurance, so she highlights her volunteer experience as a domestic violence advocate and working with the Salvation Army as a way to demonstrate her transferable skills. When she does describe her unrelated work experience, she focuses on her accomplishments and her transferable skills, like relationship building, organization, and listening skills. Now here's an example of a cover letter that you might utilize in a field experience search. You will notice in this example, Sarah uses a business letter format, and you can find examples of a business letter format and other examples of cover letters on Optimal Resume. Sarah begins by researching her targeted organization so she can address the letter to the correct person and give specific reasons why she's interested in this particular site. She also clearly outlines her purpose in seeking an internship and gives an overview of her academic program. She also gives specific examples of the knowledge and experience she's going to bring to the position, such as her volunteer work, her knowledge of ethics and communication skills, and she ends her letter with a request to further discuss field opportunities at the site. Now, both of these application documents clearly outline the student's strength and their brand. So now let's move on to some outreach methods that you might use when reaching out to potential field sites. There are several ways to reach out to a potential field site, and when researching field sites, one of the most common ways to begin is by making some phone inquiries. Now make sure that you have a plan before you call and that you communicate clearly who you are and what you're looking for. That could be that you're requesting a meeting or that you're requesting additional contact information where you could send your portfolio. There is a good chance when you're making phone inquiries that you might have to leave a message, so make sure that you leave contact information and speak clearly and slowly. You can also reach out to field sites via email. Now, whenever possible, it is best to address your email inquiries to someone specific rather than having a generic greeting. You may be able to locate the name of a potential field site supervisor on the organization or agency website, on LinkedIn, or by making phone inquiries. Make sure that you use formal language and proof for typos and grammatical errors before you send an email. You may want to look through examples on the Optimal Resume letter builder or run your email through Grammarly before you send. Be sure to be brief and concise because most people are busy, so you want to be very clear on what you're looking for. Make sure to include all your application documents and your portfolio so that the potential field site coordinator can easily be able to assess if you're a good fit. I'm sorry, not field site coordinator, a potential field site host. Finally, you might be able to to stop by an organization or agency. Make sure that you dress appropriately for your visit and bring a notebook, pen, and application materials with you. Exhibit a friendly, professional demeanor when you visit, and if the visit is unscheduled, be prepared to leave your application materials behind if there's no one available to speak with you. Now, you want to make sure that you follow up on all these outreach efforts. If a potential field site supervisor or other professionals have taken the time to speak with you, make sure that you follow up by sending a thank you note. Thank you notes are a courtesy that are appreciated by everyone and can make you a more memorable candidate. And if you sent emails or left messages and have not heard back, do not be afraid to be politely persistent. And of course, no matter how promising a site seems, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Don't stop your search until you have a solid offer. Finally, you want to make sure that you're networking throughout your field site search, and there are many ways to begin networking. You can establish a profile on LinkedIn. You could join professional associations like the National Association of Social Workers, or you can find opportunities to build up your skills. As Megan mentioned earlier in our presentation, you should keep your eyes open for potential contacts to reach out to for one-on-one meetings or informational interviews. And during these informational interviews, you can ask for advice and guidance. You can request an informational interview with a social worker who's already in your network, or you could reach out to someone that you might have someone in common with or something in common with, like a fellow Walden alumnus. LinkedIn can also be a great place to search. An example message might be, "I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee so we can chat." It would be great to hear your insights about working in social work and your experience working at XYZ agency. I know how busy you are, so a brief 20 to 30 minutes of your time would be appreciated. Like all of the networking strategies, the goal of the informational interview is that they'll provide you some valuable information and possible leads for your field experience search. Your contact may be aware of some organizations or agencies that you have not considered yet. Now, we hope that you have found these strategies on how to conduct a proactive search helpful, and we hope that you'll use these strategies to market yourself and Walden University as you contact your potential internship sites. I want to let you know that you can find more information and resources on the Career Services website, and that can be accessed through your My Walden portal or by going directly to careercenter.waldenu.edu. Our resume resources can be found on the horizontal navigation bar. Here you can find tips for tailoring your application documents, interview tips, and social work resources including professional associations, job boards, and LinkedIn groups. Now on the left-hand navigation is where you can locate the optimal resume system. So now Donna is going to share where you can locate additional field experience resources.
Thank you, Angie. I hope this webinar has helped you consider how to plan for your internship, maybe engage a community search, explore the expectations of field and social work programs, and market yourself for this experience. The field office has a website and it has many tools and resources to help you with your agency search, understanding field policies, how to apply, and there's a lot more information that you can glean from that website. You'll find webinars about foundation and concentration year placements, a list of our current agency partners, and some guides for searching your community. So we suggest you bookmark this site and refer to it often. You'll use it throughout your program as you enter both your field placements. Our field team is always available to answer those questions that you can't find on our website, or questions that maybe are particular to your situation. You can contact, for MSW students, you can contact field.coordinator@mail.waldenu.edu and someone will assist you. If you are an undergraduate BSW student, you can email bswfieldexperience@mail.waldenu.edu, and our team will do their best to help you through your process.
So now we would like to open it up for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the question box here, and we already have some questions that have come in, and hopefully we can take care of as many of these as possible. So Jarek asks, this may be off subject, but do they have to have a license or just a master's in social work? Because that can make a difference in how you locate them. Donna, do you want to cover that one?
Sure, Angie. That's a great question. The requirement is an MSW with 2 years postgraduate work. If you're in your concentration year, that means your final placement of the program. We do prefer someone with a license because we want you to learn clinical skills, but it is not required.
Excellent. Here's an interesting question. I have a family member related through marriage who is an LCSW at Kaiser Permanente in palliative care and is willing to assist with my field experience. Does this correlate with the NASW Code of Ethics 3.02? Dion, do you want to get that one?
Absolutely. So I don't know that there's a real hard and fast rule in regards to who can be your supervisor and who cannot. I think the most important thing when you're looking at a supervisor in a field placement is that there is no undue influence on you as a student in regards to a relationship. And this really is intended to allow you the freedom to learn, but also identify concerns and have them handled appropriately if the need arises. So I think the relationship thing is always a very difficult thing because there's typically so many variables involved with that. Anything from perhaps you're living in a small community and you virtually are related in some way, shape, or form to everyone within the community. It really is much more about the assurances that when you are in your field placement, that you have the safety and security and support around that placement in order to learn and also identify concerns if they arise.
Excellent, thank you. Patricia asks, is there a list of potential agencies available that I can use to find a new agency for my concentration field experience? Megan, do you want to get that one?
Sure thing. On our field education website, there is a tab there that says locating an agency. So if you click on the sidebar on the left-hand side that says locating an agency, there will also be another tab in the center that discusses previous partnerships. And these are all of the sites that we've already worked with for BSW or foundation level students as well as concentration level students. So you'll want to search out the specific document for where you are at in your specific degree and program, and then from there you can search out what might be best applicable for you.
Thank you. So now we have two students with essentially a very similar question here. And the first one asks, what advice and guidance do you have for students who are working full-time and are seeking field placements during evening hours and weekends? And the other one says, you know, I've been searching, but I'm having difficulty finding an agency who can accommodate my regular work schedule. So very similar. Donna, do you have any tips for these students?
I do. I appreciate that question because I think most of us who have an MSW remember times where we had to make a lot of sacrifices for that internship, and it is quite difficult. There are some types of agencies that do offer extended hours, but I have to be honest, that's not the norm. Some of the agencies that may do that will be your crisis centers, shelter services, anything that maybe has a 24-hour intake process. Now, when you get to the concentration year, this is even going to be less typical. So my suggestion for you who are working, and most of our student body does work, so the first thing I will say is there are many who have come before you who have made these arrangements in their life, so it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of planning. And one of the things is maybe reaching out to your employer, if that's an option, to see what type of flexibility they may be able to provide you in your schedule. Just sitting down and thinking about your plan as far as what hours you do have and considering creative ways to get some of those hours in during a week time. And maybe an agency has a few hours for the weekend, but not all hours for the weekend. So it really is going to take quite a bit of planning, and you have to remember that most professional social workers do work regular hours, so that's when your supervisor would work your standard hours, unless they're in those settings that I mentioned before. I don't know if Dion has anything to add to that as well.
I think that Donna made some wonderful points, and I totally agree with her. I think planning ahead is probably the most important thing that I would impress upon students as they prepare for field, that it really is something you want to be doing at the very beginning of your program, not at the end. Everything from maybe saving up and looking at and collaborating with other people that have perhaps done field placements before you, looking for their different ideas or suggestions, visiting with your current employer, letting them know that, 6 months from now, this is what you're looking at. I think sometimes students might be afraid to actually have those discussions with their employers because they're afraid they're not going to be flexible. But I think it's important because then it gives you a better idea of what you're dealing with or where you need to make the tough decisions. I also agree with Donna that regardless of any kind of agency that you look for, you need to have active supervision, and that really is going to be in those traditional Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of hours. Even if you're working at a hospital, for example, or a homeless shelter, you need to be able to work under your supervisor to learn from them. So even though you might be able to do some hours in the non-traditional times, overnights or on the weekends, you are still going to have to be available not only for that supervision with your employer, but also your senior seminar hour throughout the week. So it really is something that you need to prepare typically well in advance for in order to meet those requirements.
Excellent, thank you. Now we have two students who again have some similar questions here, and they ask, are internships at our place of work allowed? Are there special requirements for this, or can I do an internship at an organization that I currently work on if I do a different shift? Donna, do you want to? Okay.
I can, yep, no problem. We do allow students to do worksite placements, but there are some stipulations to that. To be accepted at your work site, you're going to have separate hours than your typical work schedule. You're also going to need to be supervised by someone that has not been your supervisor in the past and is not a part of your employment department, so to speak. So you'll really need to be in a different department, different hours, different tasks. It needs to be a very different experience. Now, some agencies where students work are quite large, and they can go to work at their typical job and then go to a different building, a different department, and have a whole different experience, and it's very separate. Those tend to be pretty good arrangements. What we try to protect you from by having these extra requirements, not only does CSWE require that you not count any work experience as field experience, so none of your work hours or regular work duties can count as field experience, but we also want to protect you as a learner. So when you are in the workplace, the risk is that if you are an intern and let's say your performance isn't as good as it would be as an employee because you're learning. We don't want that to affect your employment. And we have had circumstances where students have been laid off from their job and because of that lost their internship. So you do take a risk having a worksite placement. So we do allow them with some more strict stipulations.
Excellent. Patricia asks, I've just finished my foundation field experience and I'm looking ahead and planning for my concentration field experience. Do I have to submit a new application for the concentration field experience? Megan, could you answer that one?
Yes, thank you. You will have to submit a new application through the Metatrek system that you used during your foundation level experience. So on the field experience website, it'll walk you through the steps to submit an application for your concentration level experience. Now, I do want to have you follow up first with your academic advisor to discuss your plan of study and which quarter you should begin your internship for your concentration level placement. We ask that all students do this prior to submitting their application to ensure that they're applying for the correct term start date. So you'll reapply through Metatrek again with your same login credentials and information that were sent to you at the beginning of your program.
Thank you. Tia asks, can your foundation and concentration internship be at the same site as long as the student is doing different tasks that fit within the foundation and concentration requirements? Dion, do you want to answer that one?
You know, I don't know that I know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I'm going to turn that over to Donna just because I don't know.
Thank you, Dion. This is handled on a case-by-case basis. So there's a real need for your two field placements to be different. Different in task and scope, and one is generalist, one is advanced. So if you did an internship at an agency where you did your foundation placement and you think there is an opportunity for you to continue on in concentration, maybe expanding your learning, doing something different, the agency's large, you can have a different supervision experience, we'll consider that, but it is handled on a case-by-case basis.
Excellent, thank you. And then last question, can I apply or start looking for agencies after I'm done with my residency course? Megan, can you answer that one?
You can already begin searching for an agency or a potential site to do your internship at. We do recommend, as I mentioned earlier, that you begin this process early and don't delay on the start of that. So go ahead and, attend your residency, but if you are able and have a site in mind prior to your residency that's scheduled, I would say go ahead and contact them and see what you can get started with the agency as far as maybe an interview or submitting an application or your resume there.
Excellent. And I can answer one more question. Brianne asked, can I take this webinar again in the future? And Brianne, we are recording the webinar today, and so this will be archived on the website 1 week after the webinar today, and it will be there for your reference. So thank you all for all the wonderful questions. So as we close down a little bit today, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to encourage you to stay in contact with us. I encourage you to join the Career Services LinkedIn group, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, read Walden Student Success Stories on our blog, and use all the features that I mentioned today in the optional resume system. And I also want to remind you, you can access all the career resources that I mentioned today on our website at careercenter.waldenu.edu. I want to thank all of the great social work panelists that we had today, and I speak on behalf of all of us when I say that we want to thank you sincerely for joining us, and we look forward to helping you reach your goals.